Sankofa, back to the source. Sankofa, back where our ancestors came. Back to the source. Sankofa.
Hotel. Peace. Welcome to Sankofa, Lessons from Black History. My name is Baba Anda Ma'at, and in this episode, I would like to present to you a history of black education in San Antonio. Today, we're going to go on a journey, a Sankofa journey. Sankofa means going back to fetch it, what was left behind. So we're going to look at history, the history of black education development in San Antonio. We want to acknowledge the struggles, the triumphs, the powerful lessons that still guide us today. Again, Sankofa, Lessons from Black History. First, let's take a look at the word Sankofa. It's the power of historical memory. Sankofa bird is an Adinkra symbol, an African symbol that says to go back and fetch it, to return to the past. In the symbol you see the bird, the Sankofa bird, and you see the bird feet is facing forward. The bird's head is turned backwards, and in the mouth of the bird is an egg. When you think of this symbolism, the idea is that we're moving forward into the future, but we're looking back in the past, extracting, digging out those powerful lessons from our history. And in our mouth, in the mouth of the bird, is the future. Sankofa. So the principle simply says, learning from the past to guide the future. A history of black education in San Antonio. The story of black education in San Antonio is one of struggle, resilience, and triumph. From the days when enslaved Africans were punished for daring to read, to the creation of schools like the Rincon School, the Riverside, Douglas School, and St. Philip's, our ancestors fought tirelessly to open doors that was closed to them because they understood the importance of education. So in this presentation, it's not just about history, it's really about legacy. It's about honoring the educators, the institutions, and families who sacrificed so we could learn and ensure that the future of generations understand the power of knowledge. So let's begin here. The history of black education in San Antonio begins in Africa. You've heard me say, black history doesn't begin in bondage. It begins in greatness. On the continent of Africa, the original people established the first educational systems. Great nations like Kemet, today we know as Egypt, and Ghana and Mali and Shanghai laid the foundation for education. The Moors from North Africa, African Moors were Africans who practiced the religion of Islam. It was the Moors from North Africa that brought knowledge, science, and libraries and architecture to Spain. The African Moors brought the light of knowledge to Spain, and thus Europe during the time of the Dark Ages in Europe. The Moors of North Africa left a lasting impact on Spain and throughout Europe. In the architecture, the art, the language, the agriculture, and scholarship. The Moors' impact is seen here in San Antonio. Now, this legacy reminds us that African people have always been educators and valued the importance of education and were carriers of light and wisdom. When we look at slavery and education denied, enslaved Africans brought to America skills and culture and language and spiritual traditions. But here in America, that brilliance was met with brutality. Enslaved Africans were denied the right to read and to write, and some were beaten or killed for even trying. But yet, in secret, many still learned. They knew that knowledge was liberation. So, post-emancipation, when formerly enslaved Africans, now free, what did they want? Well, of course, family and land and community. But they put a priority also on education. Communities that laid the foundation for Black San Antonio educational system. See, the demand for education by freed Blacks really propelled the demand and need and growth of public education. Think about that. So let's come home here to San Antonio. Early Black schools in San Antonio. After emancipation, education became a high priority. Freemansboro established schools, and one of the early schools was the Rincon School, later to be renamed the Riverside School. It gave African people, African Americans, their first taste of formal education learning here in San Antonio. Now, I must mention the fact that there is an educator here, Mrs. Williams, and she had shared with us that not only was the Rincon School providing education, but also at the time, St. Paul United Methodist Church had an education or a school within the church where also newly freed Blacks were learning. Now, additional segregated schools began to open and really to accommodate Black education needs and desires. In 1888, St. Peter Claver, a Catholic school, one of the first in the state to establish an independent Black school, St. Peter Claver. And then in 1890, you had Santa Clara Public School, which was established in the Baptist settlement. During this time, the Rincon School also, as I mentioned before, changed its name to the Riverside School and then eventually became the Frederick Douglass School in 1915 when it moved to the east side across the street from where now you have Mount Zion First Baptist Church. And there is a historic marker there acknowledging this history. But the main thing is that coming out of enslavement, African Americans here in San Antonio wanted education. The Douglas School. The Douglas School was founded and named after the great abolitionist, and this school became a cornerstone for black education in San Antonio. The first principal of the Douglas School was Samuel J. Sutton, who had been appointed to this position at the old school and who remained at the Douglas School until moving to Phyllis Wheatley High School in 1933. Mr. Sutton wrote, "School is a place where you learn how to live, how to earn a living, how to get along agreeably with others." The Douglas School provided early black youth with classic education and values. A quick note, Miss Myra Davis Hemmings, who is one of well-known people here in San Antonio. She graduated from the Riverside School in 1909, went to Howard University. There, as a member of the AKAs, leaving the AKAs and becoming a founding member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. But she came back to San Antonio after graduating in 1913. Here, joining the educational system, teaching at Douglas School and eventually at Phyllis Wheatley High School for over 50 years in the English department. Miss Myra Davis Hemmings left a lasting impact on education of the next generation here in San Antonio. Then you had the CUNY School. The CUNY Elementary was another vital school named after Norris Wright CUNY, a political leader and an advocate for black rights in Texas. Now, some other public schools for African American students at the time included the Grant Elementary, Paul Lawrence Dunbar Junior High School, Phyllis Wheatley High School. What we're saying is that African Americans were demanding education and building educational institutions that would provide for their children. A special note, West San Antonio High School was more than really a neighborhood. It was a center of culture and education for San Antonio black community on the west side, a place where schools and churches and families worked together to raise strong children. It was in 1931, Miss Dolores Linton opened the West San Antonio Heights Elementary School in a former dance hall called Paradise Cove. With 20 students, used school books and desks from other schools. Children were Think about this, family. During this time, the building lacked any amenities, but had 2 outdoor toilets, one for the boys and one for the girl. No running water. The parents provided the lunch, but Miss Dolores Linton was determined to provide an educational system here for these young people on the west side of San Antonio. She taught reading, writing, arithmetic, spelling, character education, language, geography, history, civics, and current events, health and physical education, and arts. And she told the San Antonio Express in an article in 1976, she said, quote, "The children needed someone who understood their social and economic condition. I tried to make them take pride in themselves and to give them hope for the future." Black education in San Antonio was important to the family and community in creating opportunities to teach skills and values and instill a sense of hope was an important part of the educational system. Miss Dolores Linton. Then you had Phyllis Wheatley High School opened in 1933 as the first black high school really in San Antonio. It became really a powerhouse, producing leaders and athletes and scholars who really shaped the community for decades. The school was named for Phyllis Wheatley, the first published African-American poet. And Phyllis Wheatley became an important educational institution on the east side of San Antonio. You had people who graduated like Dr. Robert Hilliard, Professor Gaynell Gaynor, Willie Mitchell, great athletes, Mr. Ed Glosson. They were graduates of this amazing school, Phyllis Wheatley High School. And then you had St. Philip's College, founded in 1898 by the Episcopal Church as a sewing class for black girls, but grew into a HBCU, a historic black college. Again, it started as a sewing class, but today it stands proudly as a historical black college, shaping leaders and serving the entire San Antonio community. Miss Artemisia Bowden in 1902 transformed the school from a sewing class to a full-fledged institution of higher learning. Later, she was recognized truly as a hero, Saint Artemisia Bowden. So here, just wanted to raise up some of the great educators of the San Antonio community. You had Miss Artemisia Bowden, who served as the leader of St. Philip's College for 52 years, saved the school during the time of the Great Depression, using her own resources, traveling the country, raising money to keep the doors open. She was a legendary educator. And I had mentioned earlier, Miss Dolores Linton, the founder of West San Antonio Heights. Going out there, seeing the need of this community, she was determined to build an educational institution. And I just want to note that, family, it was one of the students, Miss Vera Williams Young, owner of Carter Taylor Mortuary, had shared that she was an extraordinary lady and a good teacher who at one time taught all 10 grades in one room. She was strict, and she didn't mind taking out the belt and giving you a good spanking if you misbehaved. She also recalled that Miss Linton she was the coach of the San Antonio Heights elementary school basketball team, the Yellow Jackets. And then Mr. Samuel Sutton, the patriarch of the Sutton family. The Sutton family really exemplified the importance of education in the home and education in the community. The Sutton family stands tall in San Antonio's educational history. Samuel Sutton, served as principal for 60 years at Douglas and Phyllis Wheatley High School. And they taught that education was important in the home. Of their 12 children, 10 of them received postgraduate degrees in fields of science, law, business, politics, and social service. And it was a story of how Mr. Samuel Sutton's whole motto was do right. And he made sure his children did the right thing in valuing education and using that education to uplift the community. People like G.J. Sutton, a state representative, his son, Percy Sutton, a lawyer, and a owner of the Apollo Theater, his son. Miss Lillian Sutton taught in the public educational system here in San Antonio for over 40 years. His daughter, I should say their daughter, because his wife, Lillian Sutton, was also very involved because at one time she was a teacher, but they value education. Now, I want to just make note, family, as we move around the city of San Antonio, coming out of this great, amazing history of black education, to acknowledge the fact that San Antonio named some of their schools for great black historic figures. Of course, you have the Booker T. Washington School. You have the Dory Miller, named for Mr. Dory Miller, who was a heroic African-American Navy sailor and received the Navy Cross for bravery at Pearl Harbor. You had the Frederick Douglass School, named for Frederick Douglass, the famous African-American abolitionist and orator. The Abraham S. Grant Elementary School was named for the early pastor of St. James AME Church here in San Antonio, who became a bishop of the church. Miss Linton, named for Miss Dolores Linton, who I mentioned earlier. Davis Middle School, named for Stonewall Jackson Davis, a black leader in San Antonio known for his extensive service to St. Philip's College. Of course, MLK Middle School, named for the great civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Cameron School, named for Miss Bella Cameron, the first African-American principal woman who served as principal of any SAISD school. I'm just saying, family, the history of these people are locked into the schools. And why is this important? It honors their legacy while ensuring that the students learn about these role models who reflected their heritage and the struggles. And they also serve as living reminders of resilience, excellence, in the ongoing fight for equality in education. Now, family, as we wrap this up, in summary, enslavement denied black people the right to education, but despite the barriers, black San Antonians built schools and education institutions. Pioneer educators like Artemisia Bowden, Samuel Sutton, and Dolores Linton shaped generations. Schools like Douglas, Phyllis Wheatley, St. Philip's, and more became pillars of progress in education in the community here in San Antonio. Education has always been a central part to freedom, dignity, and community empowerment, and African Americans here in San Antonio saw that and continued that tradition. So today, our charge is to protect, expand, and continue this great legacy. Now, what are we asking, family? What can we do? We can get involved. How? Passing on this great legacy. Learn to support Black history in San Antonio. Join us, family, on a San Antonio Black History Tour. Also, take time to view the film, Walk on the River, A Black History of the Alamo City. Host a cultural program where you invite a speaker to come in and talk about this amazing history. Family, contribute to the development of an educational program. If it's in your church or if it's in your community or somewhere where you provide education, especially the local education for our youth, so they have a better understanding of those who have come before them. So really, family, in closing, Sankofa really is a call to action. Sankofa teaches we honor the past by building a greater future. Let's keep telling these stories, teaching our children, and carrying forward the torch of education and liberation. Sankofa, Lessons from Black History. Again, my name is Baba Andama'at. It has been my honor and privilege to share this information. Please take it and share it with others. Until the next time, peace. Hotel.